In this video, I'm going to introduce briefly the effects available in InDesign. It's important to remember that InDesign is a layout program. It is not a graphics creation or editing program. So anything that's intense or specific, you want to be doing that in Illustrator or Photoshop as appropriate. InDesign does offer some useful features in its effects menu. And the ones people probably most commonly use are drop shadow and outer glow. So I've got this image on a dark background, and make sure that you're selecting the image object, so not the actual image or the content. So I don't want my brown border there. I want to make sure I'm selecting the whole image object, its frame, and the object together. Once I have my object selected, I can go to my effects panel. If this effects panel is not visible, you can go to the window menu and choose effects. You could also go the long way to object and then effects, and then a whole pop-out menu with the same options. So I've got my object selected. I'll click on that menu and choose outer glow. For any of these, you want to make sure that the preview button is checked. And then you can adjust the settings from there. When you're happy with the results, just click OK. So on this page, I have a link here that's actually this logo, but in white. So it doesn't look like anything because I didn't put a color background behind it. I left it that way so I could show you drop shadow. So I'll go to my drop shadow option, make sure that the preview box is checked. For this instance, I'm going to decrease the X and Y offset to 0. And notice though, if you change distance, your X and Y offset will be affected as well. So when you set the X and Y to 0, leave them there, and then use these bottom options to adjust from there. So I can increase the size. Too big. And increase the spread so it looks a little bit darker. You can, of course, change the color and the blending mode type. So the blending mode type will depend on what's underneath this logo. Right now I don't have anything, so it won't really make a difference. So I'm going to leave this on multiply. You can change the color. It will bring up your swatches. So I can change this to this teal color, for example, and you can also change the opacity. You can do these effects on text as well. So this is a document made in Illustrator and was linked in. So if I have type, I'm going to take one of these text boxes, and I'll make a copy of it up here on this page. And if I select the type, or if I'm in any way inside the content, this will happen with an image as well if you click and select the content of the box and not the entire thing, all of those effects go gray. Again, that's because these effects are object level, they're not content level. So I'm going to select this text and make it white. And then when I switch back to my selection tool, my effects panel is now back to normal because I've got the object selected and no longer just the content. So I can go throw a drop shadow on there, and I can make my adjustments. And then that will make my white type a little bit more visible and give me a little bit of a distance illusion. The other thing that could be considered effects in InDesign are corners of boxes. So this is one area that's quite different than Illustrator. You don't have the sort of on the shape control, and when you look in your shape tools, there's no rounded rectangle. So in order to round things, you need to select that object. So again, this is an object level command. And then I'm going to go to Object, Corner Options. You'll notice it's right under Effects, and InDesign categorizes it in the same section. So I will click on that and click the preview box. And here with the chain link hull, I could change them all to rounded, for example, and then change the radius of those corners. If I didn't want them to be all the same, I would set them how I want them to look, and then I would click this chain link to disable it. And then I could do something like change the diagonal ones back to no fancy style. And then you can see I've got whichever corner I want, having whichever effect I want. So that's a quick intro to the effects in InDesign, as well as corner options for your objects.